throughout the morning blend, and it's this new application that parents, yes, parents, if you're listening right now, you should be really aware of this app, because maybe or maybe not, but maybe it is coming to your child's school and they could be downloading it. Dina, you have more information.
And it's not even just the app that people are worried about now, because some different phones are trying to remove the app, but the idea of this challenge is still out there. And the reason why we're talking about it is because locally in Northern California, one of our school districts, the Vacaville Unified School District, is also concerned because students are talking about it. So we're talking about the Blue Whale Challenge. What it is it's a very disturbing 50-day challenge, and it really started on social media, particularly on Instagram, and became a viral sensation. And it asks people to participate in different challenges every day for 50 days. So there's a challenge every day, and it starts with something which would seem harmless, like go watch a horror movie, or
and then talk about it on social.
And then talk about it on social media. So post about it. Done. You've done the challenge for that day. Go to the next. Unfortunately, at the very end of this challenge, it suggests that you commit suicide. And kids from 10 years old on up to their late teens are doing this. They are actually in Europe, in Russia. There have been reported deaths. They can't directly confirm it was a result of the kids seeing this app and this hashtag Blue Whale Challenge, but they are associating enough of the worry and the concern back to this hashtag. And so now the Vacaville Unified School District has come out to say, we have kids in our school district who are talking about this. And there is a warning out to parents: talk to your kids. If you hear about this, or even if you don't, be aware that this is going around. And the scary thing about this is a psychologist was recently quoted as saying, it might look like it's a game, but it should not be called a game, because this is not at all something fun. So if you hear your kids saying, oh, it's just this game that's going around, it's not a game. And this psychologist in Yahoo News was saying this is probably a lot of those students out there who are battling different mental health issues, possibly, who are falling into this trap of having a group to be a part of and having something to link up with, and other people who are also using this hashtag.
Accepted.
Yeah, and it's very scary. So again, this is something that if you are a parent out there, we would love to hear from you if you are concerned. But that memo did go out to parents this week.
Well, this is, and we talk about a lot here in the past couple of weeks about social media and the access that some people should and should not have. Now, first, my issue is, okay, so now you have an app, and as an app creator and as platforms who house these apps, whether it's Apple, whether it's Android, when something like this starts, as a corporation, as a company, maybe some steps need to be put in place where you pull this app. Nope, the app is no longer available on our platform.
And according to some resources, it has been pulled.
Good.
It has been pulled.
So then you have issues like that. And then you just have the issue with at what point are we going to say X people who are X age or under X age cannot have access to X, Y, and Z?
Right.
Because we've seen with the Instagram deaths. We've seen people committing suicide on Facebook Live. Now there's a challenge where it leads you to an endpoint that eventually will lead to your death, and they all, in some cases, involve kids. So to me, the conversation needs to shift from, just making sure that parents are aware to us as adults need to lead the charge and to say, okay, something needs to be done about this, because it's getting out of hand and kids are having too much access to certain things and they can't handle it, it seems.
Well, and you mentioned parents. Of course, again, we're hitting topics where we aren't parents. We get that.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet. We aren't parents yet, but we have been parented, right?
Yeah,
So, we have been these kids. We have been part of a generation where we know what it's like to be in school with social media and without social media. So it's been this shift over the last decade and more years than that. But my thing is with parents, so you look at a parent who never had social media in school, and we're talking about parents who have teens right now, right?
Right.
They don't recall years of having social media implemented into their own lives. So is it their fault that they maybe don't know how to educate their kids on how to do this? So I think the education starts even before that. What are the resources? What are the apps? What are psychologists doing? What is the internet doing? I don't know. Where are they getting access to information, to these programs on where to go for help on how to guide your child on social media?
Right.
Because parents, I'm sure at home, they're doing their best.
Right. And so two things here. One, the Vacaville Unified School District is in Solano County in Northern California, and Solano County put out a list of tips for parents on how to deal with internet, because it is something foreign to many parents out there, at least in the instance of having to parent your child about it. And so they've put out a list and some resources, and I put that on my Dina Cup for Facebook page. If you're interested, it might be worth just taking a glance, even if you feel like you have a great conversation already started with
You
your
feel
kids.
like you know social media because you're on it.
But again, with something like this, there's so much going around that you might not know. And the other thing I'll say is Instagram, which is where this really started. If you type in the hashtag Blue Whale Challenge,
They're doing something.
they
about
are
it,
doing
right?
something, but I don't think it's enough. So they are making a disclaimer. So when you type in that hashtag, it will pop up with a white screen, and it'll say basically the contents that you're searching for have been linked back to things that can be harmful or not for all eyes. But all you have to do is click OK and move through. They do offer a link to say if you need help with something, if you are struggling with a mental disorder or a mental health issue, here is a link to get help. So they're trying to preface that this hashtag world you're about to enter into isn't great. I think they need to do something to just block that altogether. What is the point of having it out at all?
Yeah.
If you have to go as far as putting a disclaimer, why not just take it down entirely?
Yeah.
But then on the other side of that, we live in a world where social media, if you can't get it somewhere, you're going to find it somewhere else, right? You can't shield. Is this part of maybe helicopter social media-ing? Kids got to be responsible for themselves. Parents have to be responsible for themselves to know that this exists. I think to try to strip it away on Instagram, that hashtag you can use on Twitter, I'm sure. On Facebook, I'm sure. You can use a hashtag wherever you want. If the hashtag isn't working, you're going to find a YouTube channel that is showing these videos and putting a compilation reel together. I mean, the access, you can't put an end to it.
Right.
Yeah, and
So I don't think that does enough either, or anything.
Well, I think as a business, though, if you want to look at the business side, to protect your interests, at some point, are these companies going to be held liable for having these types of things on their site, and kids or someone who may need additional help could access it and did learn about it on their site. You know what I mean? Because if I'm 13 years old and somebody says to me, Blue Whale Challenge, and I'm like, whatever, and then I'm just searching through Instagram, and I learn all about it through Instagram, and I learn all about it through Facebook or Twitter. At that point, is there some liability if something were to happen bad to the child?
Yeah.
Does it fall back on to the company?
I mean,
or could it? Or is that the next step?
I think it could.
I mean, but then it's like us as a media outlet, we sit here and we talk about it, and there's some arguments in the newsroom. Should we even talk about it? Because this may plant a seed should a child be listening.
And we did have that conversation
And we
today.
did, but it's like, well, what are we doing if we don't talk about it? Then we're not letting parents know that this is happening. Then we are, we're not being transparent, and I don't think that's fair to our viewers. So it's one of those things. You're darned if you do, you're darned if you don't.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And Julie Walker, hi, thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate you watching. Julie says, sad that kids need to do these stupid challenges and they take their own lives. She says, whoever started this app needs to be in prison. It is sickening. Liana, hello to you. She says, this is sad. And Amber says, it sounds like the premise of the movie Nerve. So I think that the scariest thing about all of this is that a lot of parents probably don't even know this is happening. So I had a Facebook conversation with somebody earlier today on my page, and he said, a lot of these warning signs that have been listed in the story that we have in ABC 10 are pretty much typical of any teenager. They don't want to talk to their parents. They go straight to their room when they get home from school. He said that's kind of what everybody already does when you're a teen. So how are you supposed to decipher between if it's a result of something bigger happening or if it's just them going through their teen years?
Yeah.
And so I asked back, what do you suggest parents do? And he said, talk to them, not at them. And I thought that was a really interesting perspective. And he went on to basically say that, you have to really listen to your kids and you have to explain to them that you're there for them. And if they have concerns or if they feel like you have to open up that conversation with them, not wait for them to come to you, and not do it in a way, at least according to this person, again, I'm not a parent, and not doing it in a way that you seem above them, to be able to get down to their level. And what do you think?
Well, I just think, I would think parenting 101, you try to do that.
You try
to do that, but I imagine I see it. I have a million cousins, and I have a million cousins who are parenting right now at my age and, older, younger, and It depends. Every child is different,
Yeah.
and every relationship with the child is different. So what you think you're doing, you may think you're doing it right. The child isn't being receptive to the way you're doing it, and you're not talking down to them. You're just talking to them. But the child's in a state or a state of mind, or just that's the child's personality to just be, I don't know, doesn't want to hear that information from their parent. We remember it wasn't long ago when we were being parented. We're still being parented.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it just depends on that relationship. But I think just knowledge of it, I don't think that is a bad thing.
And sometimes it's bigger than a relationship. I remember when I first learned about Snapchat, it was through my niece, and it wasn't like to us, a 15, 16-year-old, they have so many apps and access to so many things. In the back of their mind, when you're having a conversation with your parent, you wouldn't bring up these random apps because to them it's no big deal.
Yeah.
So like you'll have a conversation about what's going on. This girl at school said this to me, like stuff that you really want to know about, but they wouldn't sometimes, especially for her, it didn't even register for her to say, okay, so there's this new app called Snapchat where you can send
it's just another one.
It's just another one. So we randomly was like, what is Snapchat? Like she was just randomly talking, and this is when we learned about Snapchat by accident. She wasn't keeping a secret. It wasn't like a big deal. So I can see how it's difficult for parents to kind of balance that, because while you think you are talking to your kid and you're having these serious conversations and you really getting to know what's going on in their world, on the other side, to them, something that they're missing out on telling you, it's not even that big of a deal at all. So it's just a lack of, there are too many gaps.
Yeah.
It's too big of a gray area.
And if you're a parent, please let us know. You can keep weighing in even after we move on from this topic, what you would do if you've had to have this conversation. The secretary of somebody in a different school district did personally message me today and said that they are now going to have this conversation with their district, because while it hasn't been talked about, they want to make sure they're on the forefront of it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. Give you the information before you hear about it. Hopefully not in a negative way.
Tragic
but
story of some kid taking their life here in Northern California. So I'm actually proud of Vacaville Unified for saying, you know what, stepping up to the plate. Here's the information, parents, and this probably isn't the only challenge happening right now.
Yeah, right.
With these suicidal. No worries. We watched that in slow motion. You got it? Oh, look, and now my necklace is sticking to the magnet.
On their way.
Oh man. All right. Well, yes, parents, please keep chiming in, even if you're not a parent. Maybe you're a student watching, a student that's graduating, and you've gone through that whole, school thing with social media. How did you stay away?
Yeah, we know peer pressure is strong.
And how do you succumb to that? So, anywho, let's